I'm Azaria Tagaya, and this is Nightline, news making the headlines. Abduction of Palestinian man, government probing Mossad's alleged role. And viral teacher Fadli cleared of any wrongdoing. Good morning. The Home Ministry is investigating a claim that Israel's intelligence agency Mossad was behind the abduction of a Palestinian in Kuala Lumpur last month. Its minister, Datuk Sri Hamzah Zainuddin, said the ministry would take action if the claim that Mossad agents had entered Malaysia was true. Earlier in the day, the New Straits Times reported that a Palestinian national was kidnapped in a snatch and grab operation on September 28th. The victim, a computer programmer, was allegedly beaten as he was transported to a house in the outskirts of Kuala Lumpur, where he was blindfolded and tied to a chair. The Daily reported that he was then interrogated on matters related to the Hamas organization and its armed wing, Qassam Brigades. The Palestinian man was subsequently rescued by police. The report also claimed that Mossad recruited locals to help the Zionist regime track down Hamas members in Malaysia, leaving no trace of its involvement.
Perkara yang seperti ini harus kita teliti. Kemudian barulah kita akan.
The ministry will also investigate if the country's immigration laws have been violated.
Jadi sebenarnya bila sesiapa saja yang masuk dalam negara kita ni, dia ada dokumen yang sah. Jadi bila kita ada maklumat-maklumat yang mengatakan ada orang masuk menggunakan dokumen yang tidak sah, kita akan monitor dan akhirnya kalau kita rasa sudah sampai masa untuk kita tangkap mereka dan kita akan ambil tindakan yang sesuatu.
In 2018, a Palestinian who was also a lecturer at the University of Kuala Lumpur British Malaysian Institute, UNIKLBMI, Dr. Fadi M.R. Albash Fatma, aged 35, was shot dead in Setapak, Kuala Lumpur, also in an attack believed to be orchestrated by Mossad agents. In the meantime, Bukit Aman said that 11 individuals have been charged at a magistrate's court in Kuala Lumpur on October 14th. Inspector General of Police Tan Sri Akril Sani Abdullah Sani said police are still investigating the motive behind the kidnapping and were waiting for the case to be mentioned on December 15th. The IGP also urged the public not to speculate on the case as it could jeopardize the investigation and confuse the public. Meanwhile, the Palestinian Interior and National Security Ministry had expressed its appreciation to the Malaysian authorities in rescuing the Palestinian who was kidnapped in Malaysia recently. In a statement on its Facebook page, the ministry also thanked the Royal Malaysian Police and security services in the rescue efforts. It stressed that Palestine firmly denounces the blatant crime committed by the Israeli occupation against one of its Palestinian people in Malaysia and called for the perpetrators to be held accountable and sentenced. Local contractors will get the best opportunities to be included in the next government national development projects. Thus, Prime Minister Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri refuted various allegations that the allocation of development expenditure of 95 billion ringgit in the 2023 budget will only benefit certain parties.
Saya memberi jaminan bahawa kontraktor Melayu Bumi Putra yang berkelayakan akan mendapat peluang sebaik-baiknya untuk membangunkan projek-projek pembangunan negara.
He said this at the opening ceremony of the Malay Contractors Convention 3.0 and the 43rd Annual General Meeting of the Malay Contractors Association of Malaysia, PKMM, in Kuala Lumpur. Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri said that the 2023 budget also provides various specific initiatives for G1 to G4 class contractors with an allocation of 500 million ringgit to carry out maintenance works on federal roads, bridges, houses of worship and infrastructure damaged by floods. And after the event, the Prime Minister was asked by the media if the Barisan Nasional would form a political pact after the GE15. Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri said the coalition's current focus is to secure enough parliamentary seats.
Kita tunggu dulu keputusan, lepas itu kita akan buat. ya, buat keputusan selepas itu. Ya. Jadi kita cross the bridge dululah. Lepas tu baru kita buat keputusan. Kita buat andaian terlalu awal pun susah juga ya. Kita pun tak tahu apa yang akan berlaku dalam pilihan raya nanti. Jadi lepas pilihan raya nanti, keputusan dah buat, insya-Allah.
He also stressed that any decision made at that time will be done in the interest of the nation. If they want me as Prime Minister, I will not say no. This was Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamed's response when asked if the Gerakan Tanah Air GTA chief would consider making a comeback to Putrajaya for a third time.
Saya setakat ini, saya boleh berfungsi lagi. Saya boleh bergerak, saya boleh bercakap, saya boleh berunding, saya boleh ni semua. Walaupun umur saya lebih. Tapi saya masih lagi boleh bekerja dan kalau nak juga takkanlah saya nak tolak, kalau nak jugalah tapi seboleh-bolehnya taklah.
The 97-year-old two-time former Prime Minister has announced that he is defending the Langkawi parliamentary seat in Kedah. He also acknowledged rumours that the seat would be a hot seat with potential candidates including PKR President Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim's former aide, Datuk Izzah Muhammad Noor.
Okey. Ini demokrasi. Demokrasi membenarkan siapa saja nak bertanding.
The Education Ministry has cleared primary school teacher Muhammad Fadli Muhammad Saleh from Sekolah Kebangsaan Gombak of any wrongdoing. Fadli, on a live Facebook posting, said he was cleared of all three accusations brought against him through a letter from the Education Ministry. The teacher was facing disciplinary action for violating the Public Officer Regulations for Conduct and Discipline following the latter's open criticism of the education system and syllabus. There were also rumours that disciplinary action could be taken against him, including demotion. The issue, however, drew the attention of Prime Minister Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob, who urged the matter to be resolved. Earlier, Senior Education Minister Datuk Dr. Razzie Jidin said it was not in his scope as a minister to get involved with decisions made by the ministry's disciplinary board.
Dia ada border di antara menteri dengan kita penjawat awam. Ada ruang-ruang yang saya tak boleh sentuh. Apabila bercakap tentang tata tertib sebagai contoh, pendekatannya adalah apabila terdapat laporan akan ada sesi. Dia ada proses. It's a process. Proses yang dilaksanakan oleh penjawat awam.
He said the school syllabus developed by his ministry has its cycle and cannot be changed every year. The senior minister added the current syllabus used in schools started in 2017 and its production required an in-depth study process involving many experienced and capable experts and teachers. He also stressed that an education syllabus cannot be changed too often as it will be inconvenient to teachers and students. For Barisan Nasional Chief, there is a need for Malaysia to overhaul its education system. Datuk Sri Ahmad Zahid Hamidi, however, stressed that there is no need to blindly follow the system of other countries. In a social media posting, Datuk Sri Zahid said this when he touched on issues raised by Fadli on the shortcomings of the local education syllabus. He said matters raised by the teacher should not be viewed as a threat to the national education system. Datuk Sri Zahid added that the issue was not just on the syllabus, but also on other aspects, and that included facilities, teaching time, and available resources. He stressed that Malaysia should not get too excited about following other countries, as they too may have moved on to other more effective systems. According to the BN chairman, foreigners place more emphasis on facilities, teaching time and other resources, whereas Malaysia needs to look at issues facing rural schools such as in Sabah and Sarawak. There are also the Orang Asli settlements and other places where there is no internet access. He pointed out that since the country went into lockdown 2 years ago, children had faced learning losses from the 41-week school closure period, while online classrooms were hampered by inaccessible internet connectivity in rural areas. He said learning losses would affect the cognitive and socio-emotional development of the children. If it continues, it would cause long-lasting negative effects on the employment sector, productivity, and a widening income gap among the people. The dissolution of Parliament is at the prerogative of the Dewan Rakyat Speaker and is not up for dispute in the courts. The Prime Minister said this in an affidavit filed in the Kuala Lumpur High Court in Kuala Lumpur. Dato' Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob also said that the legal action against him, the Election Commission EC, and the caretaker government brought by incumbent Klang MP Charles Santiago is academic. That's because Parliament has already been dissolved. Dato' Sri Ismail Sabri also said that the Yang di-Pertuan Agong had properly exercised his constitutional powers to dissolve Parliament upon request by the caretaker PM. The PM also contended that the Yang di-Pertuan Agong had exercised his prerogative powers judiciously by expressing hope that GE15 be held before the monsoon season, which is forecast to start in the middle of November. He also said that the dissolution of Parliament cannot be challenged in court. The powers of the Agong to dissolve the 14th Parliament is something that is non-justiciable and cannot be brought to court. He also said that the powers of the EC to have the election after the dissolution of Parliament are also non-justiciable. He added that there is a collateral and hidden purpose by Santiago with this suit, and it is an abuse of the court process. Another affidavit by EC Chairman Tan Sri Abdul Ghani Saleh also affirmed what the PM had stated in his affidavit and added that it is a constitutional duty for the Commission to hold the election as Parliament has been dissolved. Santiago had sought a court order to stop the EC from holding GE15 this year. Sultan Nazrin Muizzuddin Shah has expressed sadness and concern about the way in which words such as multiculturalism, diversity and tolerance have been weaponized in the culture wars of today's global political discourse. The Sultan of Perak said this pervasive change in attitude towards multiculturalism was nothing short of a tragedy, not only because it sows seeds of division within countries, but also because of what the world stands to lose when cultural diversity is rejected and denied.
We are living in an era of mistrust, of exclusion, the very inverse of the Islamic values I highlighted earlier. In countries formerly celebrated for their progressive, inclusive stances, waves of populism have spread hatred, discord, and discontent. Ethnic and religious minorities are increasingly blamed and pushed out when countries go through times of hardship or difficulty. Citizens the world over are becoming less willing, in short, to share their humanity.
Sultan Nazrin said this in his royal address at the 6th World Conference on Islamic Thought and Civilization in Ipoh Perak on Tuesday. The situation, he added, has led to the ever-growing refugee crisis and thousands of displaced citizens due to conflict and persecution. To date, there are nearly 27 million refugees in the world at this very moment, of whom more than 10 million come from Muslim-majority countries, a staggering one-third of the world's refugee population. The ruler said such are grave and urgent realities that must not be ignored and require swift action. As an example, Sultan Nazrin cited that there are around 13 million refugee children, as reported by the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, UNHCR, which speaks to a failure of humanity on an international scale. As such, he said the world as a whole, and especially the Muslim world, needs to do better at showing and sharing humanity in order to offer homes and hope to those who find themselves tragically without either. The ruler also expressed faith that the conference would succeed in pushing the dialogue ahead and identifying new strategies to deal with this most pressing crisis. Still to come, Australia reverses Jerusalem decision. Stay with us. Reversed a decision of the previous government to recognize West Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, saying the status of the city should be resolved through peace negotiations between Israel and the Palestinian people. In a statement, Foreign Affairs Minister Penny Wong said Australia will always be a steadfast friend of Israel and was committed to a two-state solution in which Israel and a future Palestine coexist in peace within internationally recognized borders. She added that the government recommits Australia to international efforts in the responsible pursuit of progress towards a just and enduring two-state solution. Israel's foreign ministry, in a quick response, voiced deep disappointment with the decision and said it would summon the Australian ambassador. Liz Truss on Tuesday battled to stabilise her position after an economic crash forced her into humiliating U-turns on tax reforms, putting her future as leader in doubt. The British Prime Minister also apologised on the tax U-turn, saying her month-old premiership has not been perfect, but she had fixed the mistakes.
What I'm focused on is delivering for the British public. Now, I recognise we have made mistakes. I'm sorry for those mistakes, but I've fixed the mistakes. I've appointed a new Chancellor. We have restored economic stability and fiscal discipline. And what I now want to do is go on and deliver for the public. We were elected on the 2019 manifesto. I'm determined to deliver on that. Levelling up, securing investment.
Her statement came after her new finance minister, Jeremy Hunt, in a brief televised statement on Monday, axed almost all of the debt-fueled tax cuts announced last month in a budget by his sacked predecessor, Kwasi Kwarteng. The decision has been welcomed by investors but has left the Prime Minister's economic agenda in tatters only weeks into her time in Number 10. Truss on Tuesday was also to meet her cabinet and attempt to rally support among Conservative MPs, some of whom have publicly said she has no future as Prime Minister, before facing the Parliament on Wednesday for a session of Prime Minister's questions.
When he brings forward the forecasts in a fortnight made by independently...
Regional train traffic in France was cut by about half on Tuesday as several unions called a nationwide strike seeking to capitalize on anger with decades-high inflation. The strike, which will primarily affect public sectors such as schools and transportation, is an extension of the weeks-long industrial action that has disrupted refineries and put petrol stations' supply in disarray. Trade union leaders were hoping workers would be energized by the government's decision to force some of them to go back to work at petrol depots to try and get fuel flowing again. Previously, Prime Minister Elizabeth Borne said these strikes are happening in a tense political context as the French government is set to pass the 2023 budget using special constitutional powers that would allow it to bypass a vote in Parliament. Over in Russia, 13 people were killed after a warplane crashed into a 9-story apartment building and ignited a massive blaze that engulfed several floors. According to Russian Defense Ministry, a Su-34 bomber came down in the southern port city of Yeysk after one of its engines caught fire during takeoff for a training mission. It said both crew members bailed out safely, but the plane crashed into a residential area, causing a fire as tons of fuel exploded on impact. At least 17 apartments were said to have been affected by the fire, and about 100 people were said to have been evacuated. Authorities identified all the victims as residents of the apartment, who were found dead after hours of searching through debris of the building. Sosa conquers the LTDL. Sports after this short break. Sports cycling, the 2022 Le Tour de Langkawi. Colombian rider Ivan Ramiro Sosa Cuervo created history on Tuesday as he became the first Colombian to clinch the yellow jersey as the overall champion. Completing in the 8th and final stage of the race, covering a distance of 115.9 kilometers, Sosa of the Movistar team made sure of the coveted yellow jersey with a 23-second advantage over EF Education Easy Post rider Hugh John Carthy. Earlier, during the Stage 8 of the LTDL around Langkawi, Burgos BH rider Alexander Molinar came out tops in 2 hours, 25 minutes and 37 seconds, followed by Alpecin de Koenig's Jason Osborne and UAE Team Emirates' Juan Sebastian Molano Benavides. There was a double delight for the Terengganu Polygon cycling team, TSG, when Muhammad Nur Aiman Muhammad Zarif took the red jersey as the king of the mountain with 29 points, while his teammate Jambojant Sanbaya took the white jersey as the best Asian rider. The green jersey went to Stage 6 winner Erlin Blikra of UNOX Pro Cycling Team with 49 points. Turning to football now, Karim Benzema was rewarded for his remarkable success with Real Madrid by winning the Ballon d'Or at a star-studded ceremony in Paris on Monday, while Spain's Alexia Putellas retained the women's prize. Benzema, who is the first French winner of the most prestigious individual award in football since Zinedine Zidane in 1998, scored 44 goals in 46 games for his club last season, as Real won the Champions League and La Liga. 15 of his goals came in the Champions League, including hat-tricks in knockout wins against Paris Saint-Germain and Chelsea, and 3 more across both legs of a stunning semi-final defeat of Manchester City. The 34-year-old, who also won the UEFA Nations League with France, succeeds Lionel Messi, with the Argentinian not nominated this year after claiming the prize for the 7th time in 2021. Meanwhile, Spanish player Alexia Putellas won the Women's Trophy for the 2nd straight year, following another standout season with Barcelona. Real Madrid's Thibaut Courtois, in the meantime, was named Goalkeeper of the Year, taking the Yashin Trophy. Besides, Manchester City claimed the Club of the Year award after Pep Guardiola's side won their 4th Premier League title in 5 seasons. After this breather, beating 4th wife with a machete, woman charged. A head of a government agency has been arrested for allegedly accepting bribes in 2017. The Dato', in his 40s, is also alleged to have abused his position in relation to the appointment of a company to procure 4 vehicles 5 years ago. The suspect was arrested when he was summoned to the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission headquarters at around 8 p.m. on Monday. According to sources, the procurement for the 4 vehicles in 2017 amounted to 290,000 ringgit and was for the use of the agency to carry out a program. The suspect has been remanded for 4 days until October 21st to assist into investigations. In Negeri Sembilan, the 3rd wife of a man was charged at the Kuala Pilah Sessions Court with injuring the 4th wife with a machete. 36-year-old Ruslizai Shawartu Aini Cik Roslan was charged with intentionally causing injury to a 41-year-old woman using a machete at a home in Felda Lui Timur near Bandar Seri Jempol on October 15th. She pleaded not guilty to a charge of causing grievous hurt. The accused was granted 10,000 ringgit bail with 1 shorty and was warned not to approach the victim. She was also ordered to surrender her international passport to the court. The court set December 5th for mention. The Paris Motor Show has brought together some French independent car makers which are unknown by the general public to exhibit their limited edition sports cars. Their sports cars are produced in very small batches and mostly address a niche segment of the market consisting of collectors and professional car drivers. Let's take a look at the motor show as we wrap up Nightline this time around. I'm Azaria Tagaya. Have a great rest of the week.